This panel is going to examine the day-to-day financial impact of immigration enforcement on families, from lost wages to rent and food insecurity. We'll hear more about the ongoing ramifications of increased ICE activity. We'll also hear from families who are trying to survive and have been forced to adapt to some of the most devastating of circumstances, as we've heard throughout the day. Thank you for your courage and your stories that you brought to us today. And today we will have several witnesses in this final panel that are going to be anonymous and behind this drape. Celida will be behind the drape. We will also hear from Enrique, another anonymous witness who will be behind the drape. We will hear from Raquel Roman, Executive Director of the Proyecto Pastoral at Dolores Mission. We'll start with Celida behind the drape.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Celida. Soy propietaria de un pequeño negocio ubicado en la ciudad de Lincoln Heights. Muy frecuentemente tengo contacto con personas emprendedoras, con pequeños negocios y con vendedores ambulantes y general en la comunidad. Por eso el día de hoy aprovecho esta oportunidad para ser la voz de todos ellos. Y estoy aquí para decirles de qué manera ha impactado las redadas migratorias en nuestra comunidad, en nuestra familia y principalmente en todos y cada uno de los pequeños negocios que conforman la ciudad de Los Ángeles. La brutalidad con la que vinieron las redadas migratorias causó en nuestra comunidad mucho miedo, mucho pánico. De esta manera, las familias tenían miedo a salir a trabajar, a comprar los productos que necesitaban en sus familias. De esta manera nosotros también perdimos muchas ventas. Ahorita estamos colapsando poco a poco porque no tenemos los suficientes ingresos para salir adelante con nuestros negocios. Estamos atrasados con las facturas, los altos costos de la renta, la mercancía. Ha causado un impacto muy grande en nuestros negocios, que algunos negocios están a punto de cerrar. Nuestra ciudad es una ciudad muy bella que necesita tener los pequeños negocios abiertos. Recuerden, un negocio cerrado solamente trae inseguridad, vandalismo. No queremos esto en nuestra ciudad. Queremos seguir manteniendo nuestras familias. Queremos seguir teniendo esos ingresos, darles ese bonito servicio que dábamos en la comunidad. Por eso estoy pidiendo el apoyo, principalmente un llamado a la señora Karen Bass, alcaldesa de nuestra ciudad de Los Ángeles, a cada uno de los representantes concejales que nos ayuden, que necesitamos salvar a todos los pequeños negocios de donde nos encontramos. Necesitamos que esa fuente de trabajo para sustentar nuestras familias vuelva de nuevo. No queremos seguir careciendo en nuestras familias. Vamos atrasados con las rentas, tenemos las tarjetas de crédito a tope, no tenemos para seguir adelante, para seguir sobreviviendo con nuestros negocios abiertos. Recuerden, tenemos tanta gente emprendedora en nuestra ciudad, tanta gente trabajadora. Necesitamos el apoyo para seguir continuando, para seguir operando en nuestros negocios. Y les pedimos de la manera más amable y más atenta que nos auxilien. Nuestras comunidades de los pequeños negocios están muy débiles por todo este caos que ha dejado la situación migratoria en nuestra comunidad. Por favor, por medio de ustedes, necesitamos su apoyo, necesitamos que los dirigentes de las ciudades vengan a platicar con nosotros, a conocer todas y cada una de las tristes historias que suceden en los negocios. Les hablo en forma muy personal. Yo tenía un miedo muy grande cuando las redadas migratorias llegaron a mi comunidad, que perdí ventas, perdí muchas ventas en no venir a abrir mi tienda por miedo. Recuerden, una comunidad con miedo es una comunidad que se debilita. Nosotros no queremos eso para nuestra ciudad. Necesitamos volver a fortalecer esas ciudades de Los Ángeles. Necesitamos ver esos negocios activos. Necesitamos ver que nuestra comunidad sigue viva. Recuerden, cuando los negocios cierran, no nada más cierra ese restaurante, ese salón de belleza, esa peluquería, esa tiendita. Esos negocios cierran y se cierran las oportunidades. Se cierra el corazón de una comunidad. Por favor, les pido un atento llamado a todas las autoridades o las personas que tomen decisiones, que por favor vengan en auxilio en nosotros, porque en realidad necesitamos la ayuda. Necesitamos tener nuestros negocios abiertos, porque recuerden, la ciudad de Los Ángeles necesita seguir viva, necesita salir fuerte. Y nosotros podemos, unidos, podemos lograr muchas cosas. Nosotros somos mucha gente echada para adelante. Solamente necesitamos su apoyo, porque nosotros no nos vamos a rendir, no queremos cerrar nuestros negocios. La ciudad de Los Ángeles necesita seguir estando fuerte.
Gracias, gracias. We will actually now go to Ms. Roman.
Good afternoon. My name is Raquel Roman, and I serve as the Executive Director of Proyecto Pastoral at Dolores Mission in Boyle Heights. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and contribute to this important public record. I'm here today to share what we have witnessed firsthand as immigration enforcement continues to affect the financial stability, housing security, and overall well-being of immigrant families in our community. On June 6, I was present during the enforcement action at Ambiance. After being tear gassed without warning, I stood directly in front of heavily armed agents. We were face to face. I remember feeling disbelief as I witnessed what was happening in our sanctuary city and watched hardworking members of our community being treated as they were criminals shackled from hands to feet. As we stood there, many of us felt a mix of anger, fear, and heartbreak. In that moment, I found myself thinking, if there would be spaces like this where the experiences of our community could be documented and where the cruelty and violence we witnessed would become part of public record. What I witnessed that day was not simply an immigration enforcement operation, it was the beginning of a financial and humanitarian crisis for many families. The fear and uncertainty spread far beyond those who were detained. Families lost income overnight. Children were left wondering when they would see their parents again. An entire household suddenly struggled to meet their most basic needs. On June 9th, I served as a rapid responder during the first enforcement action at the Home Depot in Huntington Park. What I witnessed there reinforced the reality that immigrant workers and families were being targeted in spaces where they gathered to seek work and support their families. Because of what we witnessed firsthand, Proyecto Pastoral and our community partners quickly organized emergency support for affected families. We launched a community relief fund to help cover rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and other essential expenses. Through this effort, we provided direct assistance to 44 families. We distributed $43K in rental assistance and $10K in utility and other bill payments, for a total of $53K in emergency support. These funds help families remain housed, keep their lights on, and meet basic needs during moments of profound uncertainty. Through LA Repair, we were able to assist an additional 174 families, regardless of immigration status, to pay their rent. 41% of those 230 were children. The need extends far beyond financial assistance. Over the past year, Proyecto Pastoral has distributed more than 750,000 pounds of food to families experiencing hardship. Since these enforcement actions began, we have seen growing demand for food assistance as families lose income, the challenges with SNAP benefits, reduced work hours, or become afraid to report to work altogether. We have worked with families after a father was taken into detention, helping them navigate the immediate crisis of losing a primary wage earner. We have helped families pay rent when they had no way to cover their monthly housing cost. We have supported mothers struggling to maintain contact with their loved ones in detention. We have also assisted in the reunification of 2 young children with their mother in Peru after their family was separated. We have witnessed the emotional burden carried by children. Young people worry every day about whether their parents will return home from work. Families are making contingency plans for who will care for their children if a parent is detained. We have one family that carries all of their belongings in their vehicle in case one of the parents gets detained. The fear created by these enforcement actions reaches into schools, workplaces, churches, and neighborhood spaces that once felt safe. The most important point I want to leave here today is that immigration enforcement affects entire families and entire communities. The consequences extend far beyond the individual who's detained, and a lot of my colleagues have already shared that. We see the impacts in lost wages, housing instability, food insecurity, emotional trauma, interrupted education, and mounting debt. For our early child education centers, the parents have had to decide whether or not they're going to enroll them to school because there's so much uncertainty, and a lot of them are going back to their home countries. At Proyecto Pastoral, we will continue responding with emergency assistance, food distribution, case management, and direct support. But community organizations cannot replace the income, stability, and sense of security that families lose when enforcement actions disrupt their lives. Thank you for the opportunity to share these experiences and to ensure that the voices of the families we serve become part of public record. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from Enrique, who will be testifying from behind the screen.
Hola, sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jesús. Yo estuve detenido el 22 de agosto del 2025. Agentes enmascarados llegaron a mi trabajo. Yo trabajo en el car wash. Yo llegué a este país cuando tenía 19 años. Yo vine con un propósito de sacar a mi familia adelante, de una mejor vida para mí y para mi papá también. Y el 22 de agosto fui detenido en el car wash. Llegaron agentes enmascarados, me arrestaron, me golpearon, me tiraron al piso y luego me llevaron al centro de Los Ángeles, la detención. En la detención tuve 4 días sin comer, sin bañarse. Ahí nomás te daban un burrito de frijoles con queso. Y luego de ahí me llevaron a San Diego, a Otay Mesa, la detención más grande de California. Había de la letra A hasta la Z la detención, aproximadamente de 150 personas por cada habitación. Me tocó ver a personas ya mayores de 80 años, a personas sin brazos, sin piernas, a personas con tanques de oxígeno también. En Otay Mesa duré un mes, luego me mandaron a Calexico. En Calexico tuve 4 meses detenido. Ahí vi muchas personas que así como yo también tenían familias. Yo soy padre de 4 niños y la más pequeña tiene 4 años y ella siempre me preguntaba que dónde estaba y yo le tuve que mentir, le decía que estaba de vacaciones. Y todo el tiempo que le decían que yo estaba en un avión, y siempre que miraba al cielo, dice, mira, ahí va mi papá en el avión. Ya mi niña, la mayor, tuvo 18 años y ya estoy graduado. Y tuve la fortuna de verla graduar apenas la semana pasada. Y doy gracias a Dios porque no todos tienen la oportunidad de salir. Salí yo el 22 de enero de este año y por ahorita todavía tengo el proceso. Tengo un grillete en el pie que me molesta. A veces no puedo dormir, tengo depresión, luego me levanto en las noches. Aquí no puedo hacer nada, no tengo trabajo ahorita, no puedo trabajar. Llevo 8 meses sin trabajar y nomás mi esposa es la que se encarga de eso. Necesito, y también conocí a varias personas que eran de otros países, no nomás de uno. Conocí personas de África, del Congo, que sin poder hablar español ni inglés, se comunican con uno para pedir comida. Todos reunidos ahí, esperando. Hay gentes que no tienen ni su abogado. También conocí otra persona que era del Perú. Tardó 5 meses en el sistema que no lo encontraban. Hasta una vez que se peleó, al otro día lo deportaron. Así mismo fue. Luego lo sacaron. Pero primero tuvo 5 meses perdido en el sistema. Nunca lo encontraron. Y pues yo doy gracias a Dios, también al Centro de los Jornaleros de Pasadena. Con ellos conectaron con mi abogada y pude salir bajo fianza. Y ahorita pues todavía sigo peleando mi caso acá afuera. Pero quisiera trabajar, volver a ser como antes. No tengo ni récord criminal. Yo de que llegué a los 19 años jamás he cometido un delito, ni de tránsito ni nada. Tengo también de la licencia, también cuando empezaron, también lo agarré también. Y pues quería darles las gracias a don Pablo y a todas las personas del Centro de Jornaleros de Pasadena que están haciendo mucho por mí y por mi familia. Gracias.
Gracias, Jesús. Will we hear from Enrique next or from the anonymous witness?
Sí, mi nombre es Enrique Quesada y quiero compartir un poco como negocio de la ciudad de Los Ángeles el impacto que hemos estado viviendo en los últimos meses por lo de las redadas de inmigración. Ha sido devastador, la verdad, porque como negocio, como vendedor ambulante, nos ha afectado porque los compradores ya no salen a la calle. Y también con lo de que han detenido muchas personas, muchos conocidos, que hay que trabajar muy duro para pagar las fianzas y que no quieren darle fianzas, que están presos 2, 4, 6 meses, a veces sin esperanza que puedan salir. Pero por la ley habeas corpus hemos logrado sacar muchos compañeros de la venta que han detenido inmigración. Pero ya la gente no sale bien, salen traumados, salen con muchos nervios, ya no es lo mismo, ya no quieren salir a la calle, quieren estar encerrados y es tremendo lo que hemos estado viviendo. Y como vendedor ambulante también que hemos estado sobreviviendo, ahorita creo que como en el 50%, porque la gente ya no sale a comprar. Como dije, ya la gente queda en sus casas encerrado. ¿Qué estoy haciendo últimamente para vender un poco de la mercancía? Los clientes van a la casa porque ya en la calle no hay nada casi. Esto es una pandemia muy grande de los negocios. Muchos negocios están cerrando, mucha gente está optando por buscar a sus países de origen, autodeportándose, y en nuestros países está peor todavía por la delincuencia, por los secuestros, por las extorsiones. Entonces, tenemos que soportar un poco acá en Estados Unidos. Y gracias a las organizaciones también que ellos han hecho todo lo que han podido por defender a los negocios, a los vendedores ambulantes, con abogados para que los puedan defender en las cortes y poder que puedan salir libres. Algunos se logran de cada 10, posiblemente salen unos 3, 4 libres y los demás salen a sus países de origen deportados. Y es tremendo porque no estábamos preparados para este impacto tan grande aquí en la ciudad de Los Ángeles. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer los vendedores ambulantes? Tener radios para comunicarnos con otros compañeros cuando van a hacer una redada o miramos movimientos de policía, del gobierno federal. Nosotros les avisamos, alerta, porque ahí van unos carros de migración. Hacer rifas para colectar dinero, hacer páginas de GoFamily para pagar las fianzas de las personas detenidas. Como vendedor ambulante y como voluntario de los compañeros del área donde vendo, tenemos un chat de más de 100 personas y nos mantenemos informados de esa manera para protegernos un poco. Los negocios que están estables ahí nos han dado la oportunidad de que si se hace una redada, que nos inventamos para adentro para proteger a los vendedores ambulantes. Y la verdad que estamos agradecidos con esos negocios, lavanderías y muchos negocios de comida rápida también que nos han prestado que nos han dado la oportunidad de que nos encerremos en esos lugares. Y como negocio que soy de la ciudad de Los Ángeles, la verdad sí, un 50% estamos sobreviviendo y el otro 50% lastimosamente han desaparecido de las calles. Es todo lo que tenía que decir, de compartir con ustedes, con los medios, de los negocios, de las redadas, y también para finalizar, a la compañera de nosotros de que organizaba el área. Ella fue la primera que cayó en los primeros 15 días. Fue muy duro, muy difícil organizarnos para poder pagar abogados. Y como dije, las organizaciones se han apuntado para apoyarnos y la sacamos. Con la ayuda de Dios y la organización, ella salió y está libre por los momentos. Y gracias, es todo.
Gracias, Enrique. And now we will hear from our final witness, who will also be anonymous and behind the drape.
Good afternoon. I represent Frontline Relief Foundation, a nonprofit organization in Altadena that has been serving families affected by the Eden Fire and other hardships throughout our community. Approximately 72% of the families we serve are Latino, and an undisclosed number are undocumented. Through our work, we have observed that immigration enforcement can have immediate and far-reaching impacts on household stability. When families face uncertainty surrounding employment, legal status, or the potential loss of a primary income earner, it becomes much more difficult to meet the basic needs such as food, housing, transportation, and healthcare. We believe that regardless of immigration status, every family deserves access to food, safety, and essential resources. Strong community support systems are critical to helping families remain stable during periods of uncertainty. Following increased immigration enforcement activity, we observed a steep decline in attendance at our food and resource distributions. Many community members appeared reluctant to seek services even when those services were available and needed. We also noticed that some residents affected by the fire faced significant barriers when attempting to access disaster recovery resources. As a result, community-based organizations often became one of the few places where families could turn for support. We personally knew a lot of families that were scared to reach out to us because they thought we were connected to the government. They would ask us where their information is going and whether that information was going to be kept safe. A lot of people didn't have access to FEMA or other federal aid. So imagine losing everything you own in the blink of an eye and not knowing where or who to reach out for help. That became apparent from day one. You know, a lot of immediate family and local neighbors trusted our organization because I was known in the community prior to the fires. They reached out to us, and they felt safe with us. But once the immigration rates started happening, like I said, our foot traffic decreased significantly, and at first we thought people didn't need the help anymore. But as the ICE raids kind of laid off, we noticed people start coming back to our distros. And when we would ask them, like, oh, why haven't you guys been here? They told us that they were scared to leave their houses. A lot of people were messaging us on Instagram asking if we could deliver the essentials and the food to them, but we didn't have the manpower at the time. So a lot of people just stopped going for help. And then obviously that affected their financials. You know, people couldn't afford to keep their lights on at the house. I know a couple families that couldn't pay for their gas bill or their electricity bill, so it was shut off. I knew families that started coming to us because one of their family members got deported, so now they were embarrassed, but they needed the help, so they showed up to our distros. And I have very close family members that, I'm scared of them not coming home every day. I reach out to them, like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? So this definitely has put a strain on people's wallets, as you can imagine, but specifically people in Altadena, because not only did they lose their home, now they lost their jobs. A lot of people work in the construction industry or in that area, and they were scared to go work. And it has also slowed down the rebuilding process in Altadena because, as you guys know, many construction workers are undocumented. So rebuilding has definitely been affected as well because of these ICE raids. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists. We wanted to make sure to give folks the opportunity to share their stories without fear, and that's why we have this drape so that folks feel comfortable coming forward and telling their story. So this has been a critical part of making sure that we actually hear from those that have been impacted. So thank you again to all of our panelists for being here. Thank you, Ms. Roman, for being here. We have come to the end of the People's Hearing, and I want to thank all of you that have been here throughout the day, whether you've been coming in and out, whether you just got here. I appreciate your presence very much. And I appreciate you all welcoming us into your community and to listen directly from you all. Because this is your story. This is the story of what happened in LA. And this hearing is a step towards justice for that story. It's a step towards documenting it, making sure that it's not forgotten, that this chapter is written by the people that experienced the harm, and it's not written by those that caused the harm. So thank you for being here. It has been an incredibly enlightening experience. Just everything we've heard today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Marty, if he would like to say a few words as we close up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I reflect on today, all the testimony was powerful, all of it impactful, some of it very similar to what we've heard, and other things that are very unique to Los Angeles. But what will stick with me most of all is what Celida said from behind that drape. La brutalidad con que vinieron. The brutality with which they came. This wasn't just some enforcement action. This wasn't an overreaching of a police officer or a faulty policy or mistaken identity. This was brutality. And the core of brutality comes from cruelty. It comes from hatred. It comes from violence. And that's what makes this action by our government so despicable and so important for us, not only to document, but more importantly, not to respond in kind, to use the tools at our disposal, the compassion that we've tried to share with our witnesses and the audience, and to take this evidence and this information and ensure that that brutality is brought to justice according to the rule of law, according to the precepts of the Constitution which are being violated. Because while they may be brutal, we will continue to adhere to those morals and those principles that this country was founded on and that are part of our community.
Miguel, if you would like to share some words.
Deeply powerful. You know, I think in addition to the cruelty was the intentionality, the intention to separate families, the intention to create fear and to adopt it as a policy, to evoke trauma to families, to individuals, to create chaos, the intentionally to create economic wounds, to make sure families lost income, that a community is economically broken. And what was very clear is the pattern of it. The fears, the trauma, the barriers to justice, the same separation of families, the denial of rights, the same climate of fear. This was not isolated. This was clearly systemic and intentional. And it's something that, you know, if you're listening or eventually read the report, you may think, well, this doesn't impact me. This is not, I'm not an immigrant, I'm not Latino. But you should be concerned because this is not just about immigrants, this is not just about Latinos, this is about core American values, and the deterioration of those values to one community impacts everyone. This is an apparatus that's being built, and it's not just about us, it's about all of us. And it's about engaging in a society where fear is normalized and operationalized, and where through that fear, people don't speak up, people don't demand to be heard, people don't fight for their rights. I look forward to the report, and CCF is committed to being part of drafting it. There are two stories here: the stories of the pain and suffering that still continues in LA, but there's also a story of tremendous resilience. As a Chicano from East LA, I gotta say I've never been prouder to be an Angelino, to hear our community come together in the way that it has, and tested and resilient and willing to fight back, to support one another, to not allow this intentional effort to split us apart, to have us be silenced. And so the story that we're sharing to the rest of the country is not just the inhumanity of what we experience, but also the way to push forward, the way to fight back, the way to insist that our story be told. And I've heard from many of my colleagues around the country who have spoken about how much they watched what we did and how much they learned from it and how much they built their own response based on it. And just very proud to be part of this effort, and we are committed to ensuring not only that the report is written, but that it's widely distributed and that there be justice at the end of the day.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you. Just to put a fine point on it, you all started it, and others learned from you all. So that is a beautiful point. Thank you, Los Angeles, for what you did to fight for immigrant communities, because we saw that reverberate across the country. So there are so many of us that are here with you. We're going to keep fighting. Thank you so much for being here, and enjoy your evening.